Hey there, welcome to or welcome back to No Pants Profits. My name's Richard, and today we are going to talk about the newest investment from Sweater Ventures. Now, Sweater's been quiet for a while because they're working on Barn Burner and some other stuff like that, which we will be sure to cover. But the newest thing from Sweater Ventures is something called Gameboard. Heard about this morning, been doing research on it all day, and I love it. And, you know, if you've watched these videos before, Credible was one of my favorite and easiest per se exits I saw here. I'll tell you, that's all changed. Now, Gameboard is the easiest exit, and I'll tell you why. So we'll go over Gameboard. We'll look at Gameboard's intro video. I want to make this about 20 minutes or so you've got a good idea of what is going on with Gameboard. So first, let's look at Sweater's announcement, bringing humanity back to gaming, and 3.6 average hours spent per week by people who are already using the beta of this product. And we'll talk about what the product is in a minute. 60% of games that are played, this is their current beta, they're in a beta right now, are strategy games, with the gamer playing 21 games per month on their platform. They do have a beta that is ending very, very, very soon. So it's ending at the end of February. In order to buy a game board, let's watch Sweater's video on Gameboard, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper. Now, I like Sweater, I am invested in Sweater, but I am in no way affiliated, directly employed by, or told any editorial content to say by Sweater. So let's take a look at, this is actually my first time seeing this video. I've looked at some other stuff on how Gameboard actually works because I am a techie nerd. So this is why Sweater invested in Gameboard.
I'm Danny Chow, a principal at Sweater, and I am excited to share with you all today why we invested in the Last Gameboard. The Last Gameboard is a company behind Gameboard, an industry-disrupting touchscreen device for social gaming. The device brings tech-enabled innovation to any form of tabletop gaming with a native ecosystem built to provide maximum benefit and minimum compromise. One major reason why we invested in the Last Gameboard is due to the strong macro tailwinds we saw behind tabletop gaming. As many know, tabletop games are both resurging to the mainstream and shifting towards digitalization. Dungeons and Dragons, for example, has recently seen year-over-year sales doubling, but tabletop gaming is one of the last interactive categories in which a digital medium has not emerged. But we believe Gameboard is capturing a pivotal time in the intersection of these trends with the right technology and hardware to be the one-stop shop for the digital revolution. Secondly, we believe in the outstanding team and investors behind the product and business. Co-founder and CEO Shale Mehta not only demonstrated an impressive ability to attract talent, but also showcased her strength in sourcing strategic and influential investors and advisors such as Riot Games, Unreal Engine, and SOSV Hacks, and in onboarding marquee content creators like Osmodi and Direwolf Digital. We are incredibly excited to have the Last Gameboard in our portfolio and to announce this ahead of their beta close on February 28th. Which means you will all soon be able to join the next evolution of play by buying a game board.
Now, I find this very interesting because I myself am not a video gamer. I have something here, which I'll show you in a minute, which I think this is actually very, very close to. Let's jump there right now. I had this charging. You know, this really, really gives off some really strong Steam Deck vibes. I've got this because I was one of them Kickstarter backers from back in the day. I'm not a big gamer myself, but I do actually have a Steam Deck, and this really, again, gave off some big Steam Deck energy here, which I really, really like. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's going on. So this is a physical board game. I think that's what's important. So it's a physical screen, a 17 by 17 inch screen, kind of like, think of it like a Monopoly board, a Chutes and Ladder board, a Dungeons and Dragons board, anything like that. So it's an actual physical board game. The last board game is a company behind the Gameboard, an industry disrupting touchscreen device for social gaming. The product features a custom OS, which is probably layered on top of Android or some Linux distribution. You always start with something. Patented novel sophisticated methods of integrating physical game pieces. We'll talk about that in a minute. Shapes and hand gestures, best-in-class development. The company built Gameboard to provide an enhancement to a physical tabletop game. So literally, like, this is a digital version of the Monopoly game, or, you know, whatever you want to say. This is a digital version of that board that you physically take out that square board and put on your table. And it was developed, really during COVID to provide an enhancement to physical tabletop games where possible, and to do so at the maximum benefit and minimum compromise. Tabletop gaming. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in tabletop gaming. Tabletop gaming are resurging the mainstream, but whenever I go to Target or go to Walmart, there's still a whole back section on tabletop gaming. The tabletop games that I play nowadays are pretty much the what's the name of that one? The black box, where you have to Cards Against Humanities. That's what it's called. That's one that I use year over year. Dungeons and Dragons has grown. Chess.com has doubled, and a lot of that had to be brought on by the illness, by when people couldn't really get together. Passionate and devoted teams, and you can see they've already got Riot Games on board. They've got the Venture City, they've got some funds, and they're not having problems getting developer support. That's one of the biggest and most important things, is getting that developer support and getting developers on board, the people who actually make the games, getting them on board. But I do see kind of an interesting path for this, as far as I'm seeing. So let's look at their intro of the game board. This is Gameboard's main intro of the game board. Something they haven't told. Yeah, so let's other notes. Gameboard has a partnership with Unreal Engine, Riot Games, NVIDIA, and GameStop. So I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and I said, hey, if this ever goes public on its own, it could be its own meme stock. Because, you got GameStop, you got AMC, you got the apes. So it could be its own meme stock right in its own way. But what was I going to look at here? Oh, so let's take a look at them kind of introducing themselves. And I really like this. This is about 3 years old, on YouTube, has 23,000 views. You can see that they really weren't using this on YouTube. They were likely linking this to their website so they didn't have to host the video somewhere, because they've only got 440 subscribers. But you'll see after we watch this video that we as sweater investors, or, if you're watching this as a potential sweater investor, I'm very invested in sweater, but we as sweater investors are really early to this game. So let's take, to this game and to this investment as well. So let's take a look at the last game board. This is their introduction, so I'll let this play out.
Hi everyone, my name is Shale, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of the last game board.
I'm Rob Wyatt. I'm the CTO and co-founder of the last game board.
So the last game board is a tech startup based out of Boulder, Colorado, and we are building a revolutionary hobby board game console called Gameboard 1.
When I was a kid, I lived for the times when my friends and I would get together immersed in our imaginations. I remember thinking how cool it would be if in the future we could use technology to create this same shared gaming experience as I felt during a movie. The worst part of the day was when we all had to go home. I always wished we could save the game where it was, so we could pick up exactly where we left off. Today, I still love to get together with my friends to play and get lost in our imaginations. But now, I can make my childhood dreams a reality with Gameboard 1.
I love that whole intro. Has kind of sweater vibes, if you remember the original sweater commercial. I know Jesse may be watching this. I loved that, going from the young kid to the older guy, and the only clue that you knew something was going on was when the young kid got a tattoo on his wrist. So you'll see that. But let's go ahead. Let's let this continue playing. But that was a brilliant ad right there.
Off. Today, I still love to get together with my friends to play and get lost in our imaginations. But now, I can make my childhood dreams a reality with Gameboard 1. The next evolution of gaming is here. Gameboard 1 blends the physical gaming world with the digital world. Gameboard 1 uses a revolutionary new sense screen that recognizes real.
Watch that sense screen. We're going to come back to that because I want to show you something similar along the same lines as that sense screen that I've seen before.
Game pieces and multi-touch. Play your favorite classic games and beyond. And try new games in the marketplace. Switch to different games in an instant. The last Gameboard mobile app lets me interact with any game. Connect multiple game boards together to expand maps and create a larger multiplayer gaming experience. I can use cards, dice, or any physical game pieces that I already have, or create my own pieces. Never worry about what to play, never lose a game piece. This is the last game board we'll ever need. Let's play together again. Game Board 1. One board, all play.
Gameboard 1 is a 17 by 17 inch tablet type device which can interact with physical and digital pieces. You literally play physical pieces like you would on a real board game, but the game electronics knows where the piece is and what the piece is. So the iPad doesn't have the ability to interact with physical game pieces. It's like we know what the piece is and where the piece is. Game boards aren't 16 by 9 aspect. Physical game boards are square.
Board games are static, right? And we're the culture of Netflix and binge. We like interactive, we like change, we like new preferences. So it's this ability to give life to static games. It's the ultimate way to play social face-to-face gaming experiences. And board games have survived for so long because they do the one fundamental truth, right? They bring people together. And that's what Game Board 1 is to me. It's this ability for people to come together, bring cool new ways to play any sorts of games that you want. When you play this, it's like you're playing a board game. We've put a lot of effort into just making sure that once someone turns this on, it just works. You can have different scenarios and experiences and the video game feel of having your imagination be illustrated on the game board and then interacting and playing with it. So I think developers are really gonna take that to the next level with intros and like how they present the game and how people can illustrate this universe as you see it. I think that'll be something that developers really have fun with.
Again, from that pitch, I have to say I love it. And what's really cool is they've really kept the enthusiasm going. This was 3 years ago. But if I click on their YouTube page, what they've been doing, even with a small number of subscribers overall, is they've been keeping people updated. They've been playing games. They've gotten the governor of Colorado involved. They've got that. So, you might be like, hey, this is a joke and stuff like that. But no, it's actually really quite cool. Here's another quick video. Yeah, so right now it's in kind of a pre-order reserve thing. They're entering their beta period. Let's talk about where they are in the business cycle. If we take a look at the business cycle, they have 7 investors so far. Let's see who we've got. Sweater's not even listed here yet because I think Sweater is in the latest investment round. But these are the investment rounds. They've only done a seed round so far. And they've got a lot of venture capital firms, but they got a big gaming company in here. Riot Games, which is a publicly traded gaming company. And yeah, they've done a couple of seed rounds. The last one was May 31st, 2022. And I think we're either in a seed or a Series A right now. So we're probably getting into valuation around 10 to $20 million on the total company. Maybe 25, maybe 30, but they don't really have the sales to support that big of a valuation yet. But yeah, their last funding round was about 9 months or so ago, and Sweater's involved, and I think we're getting in, and we're getting in at a very early thing. I mean, if we look at similar companies, I just want to see if Steam's here. No, it's not going to show me Steam here, but I really think, this really calls out to like a Steam Deck, which I've got my Steam Deck right here. Like I said, I'm not really a gamer. I play some sim games and things like that, but I think that's really cool. But here's the unique selling proposition here. Number one, they've got a piece of hardware that is square, like a game board, not like an iPad, not like an iPhone, not long, not weird, not these different shapes, but actually like a Monopoly game board. And then they've got some tech under the screen that's actually doing things. But yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just like a Monopoly game board, and they've got some tech under the screen that is doing things. So I actually we'll take a quick skim. They've got this guy that's got a whole bunch of games in his house. He doesn't seem to be a founder or anything like that. He just seems to be a gaming techie. And, they provided him one of these, and this is 4 months ago, just so you can kind of see a perspective of how big it is in an actual room.
They were here to do another.
Here's the gaming tech.
I'll show you guys how things work, how they can. in comparison.
I will make sure to link this video all down below. It is massive, and you'll see those bezels kind of look like something out of a low-end Samsung smartphone. But again, this is still a beta product.
But just know that it has unlimited. If you see me tap once, that's why.
But what you'll notice is there's been a lot of things like this before. A lot of tech gadgets, a lot of cubes, a lot of unique devices that just don't get the developer support. And I think what's important is they have made it so they have that developer support up front. So what they likely have is, you know, they have the developers and they've got some RFID inside, but I want to show you player drawers. I want to show you some stuff here so you can get more, you know, if you're looking at this and you're not doing hours of research, what's cool is you've got where 8 players would be.
You can see a little
see, there's the players.
Right? And if you hover over that and you open it up,
so you can sit around as one of 8 people around a game board, or up to 8 people around a game board. You just swipe up.
Scan there. So this is your player drawer. The first drawer that gets created is the host drawer, and then the second one that gets created, if you see that over here, that will just be a regular player.
Yeah, so you can have up to 8 players going around. It's really cool. It's really innovative in that way. So, and then you just connect up with your cell phone once you've got that there.
After you have, and now you would do that with any notifications from game, for example, on Thursday.
So you can have guilds, you can set up all these different things to resume games. They really thought a lot of this through. I mean, that's a Scrabble game, just so we can get a little bit of actual gameplay, so you can see what happens. Let's see how quickly that kind of opens.
What we got to talk about with the,
if they say rejoin play, it'll go back to the game as it was. So let's watch this for a second.
Companion app is, of course, another use case here, which is using it to show off hidden information. So let's go ahead and open up a game here so I can show you guys exactly what that does. You can see here I have a game like Anagrams pulled up, and you can see that when you use the companion app, it will actually show the letters on the screen that you can actually play. So all these letters are obviously supposed to be hidden from it.
The other thing is a lot of touch screens for iPhones and iPads only have 10 points of touch because they're only meant to be used by one person. This actually has unlimited points of touch, or theoretically at least 80 points of touch. And it can also sense things on the screen. So let me see if we can get to a demo of that. So we don't have a demo of that yet, but you'll see there's a game library. Oh, here we go. So you got these pucks
sitting right here. These are what you would get with the game board, and you can see that these are little player bases, but they're obviously able to be detected by the game board. You can put a mini into here and stand.
So yeah, they're conductive, and they're little conductive pieces, and they do exactly what you need to do.
See that on the game board, and that's essentially if the game was ported over, like it has more compatibility with.
So it's really, really quite cool, and this made me think of something. When I saw this going on, I thought of something, and I said, this reminds me of something an old iPhone could do. Some of you out here might have had iPhones for a long time. This is not something a current iPhone can do, but there was something on the iPhones called Force Touch. I think it's still on the Apple Watch. No, they fake it on the Apple Watch now too. It's just a long press. But this was something really cool, and I want to show you this before we kind of discuss why I really, really love this. You know what they're doing. Let me give you the logic of what they're doing here. They've got these different game pieces. Where's my game pieces? They had those different game pieces, and those different physical pieces go down on the game board, and you can put your own characters on top of them or other things of that sort. We got the game library. Let's see.
Into here and stand player bases.
So you got those player bases, and they go on the screen, as you saw in some of their promotional videos, and they're conductive, and the screen can know where they are, and the games can know where they are, and everything like that. Well, Apple did something like that back in the day. And it's kind of like a weird thing. So I want to play this real quick so you can kind of see. But it was a feature on some older iPhones.
To my YouTube channel. Today I will show you something interesting with your iPhone. You guys can check here. This is how you can.
So this does not work with current iPhones, but it worked back in the past.
You guys can check here how you can. If you want to try how you can, you just need to open Safari browser and just open here touch scale. You guys can
touch scale. It's a website
and just write touch.
Not officially Apple sanctioned, but it's kind of cool.
And you just need to place anything between open here, between the pressure, the touch, these so that which is any detective weight. You guys can see here because plastic is not capacitive.
It has to be capacitive.
So capacitive thing, or we can also use the banana screen by plastic.
Okay. That one's not showing it too well. But this one actually showed it really well. Let me see if I can show you. So you can actually weigh objects with the screen. It was kind of an interesting theory, and I did it back in the day. And you know,
as a whole, so fruits, vegetables.
so you could weigh. Come on.
Foods in general.
There we go.
Made of metal.
So as long as something was made of metal and it was conductive, you could actually weigh it with the screen of your iPhone. Oh, let me find one.
So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much
there we go. So yeah, you can pretty much weigh it with your iPhone just by doing on that. There we go.
Detect the amount of pressure.
So detect the amount of pressure and turn it into weight. That's kind of similar to what's going on. They're using some touchscreen technology, and they're kind of able to detect items there. Like I said, it's only on the older iPhones, but you can actually do that. And I'll tell you a dirty secret. I don't want to get demonetized here, but I knew a couple drug dealers back in the day that would take spoons and put them there, and you can actually measure your grams of things because you have a tare button. So you can take a spoon, which is conductive, put it there, put items in that spoon. You can imagine what items you'd put in that spoon, and they would do it. Now, here's the thing. I love this concept, and here's the thing. I love the concept because much like Steam Deck, they've got developer support. And I keep bringing up Steam Deck because Steam is one of those companies that's been very open, very transparent. I find the last game board is likely going to be open, transparent. It's going to put their extra parts available for sale on iFixit and stuff like that. Steam could be a very interesting acquisition partner for this. Steam got hardware. Steam got good hardware, thin hardware, nice hardware, firm hardware, not going to break or anything like that out the first try with the Steam Deck. So Steam is a very interesting potential acquirer or partner here, and I have a feeling they've talked to Steam. But even more important, the most important thing that's going on with the last game board is they've already got the developer support for tabletop games. Who does that attract? Well, that attracts this little thing called Apple. One of the biggest companies in the world, and Apple has something called Apple Arcade. And I see the game board, the last game board, whatever we want to call it, as a perfect fit for Apple Arcade. Because right now, you've got the iPhones, you've got the iPads, you don't have an Apple gaming console. And as Apple says, Apple likes to think different. So in thinking different, wouldn't you think that one of the coolest things that someone like Apple could do was have a tabletop gaming system? This screams Apple to me, and it screams Apple to me in a great way, and it screams that Apple might be able to get those bezels down, because if you know anything about the iPhone, because bezels are important. Bezels are what make screens look modern. If you know anything about the iPhone, you'll notice that the bezels, there's almost non-existent bezels, because what they do is they fold the bottom of the screen under on the bottom. So it doesn't have any bezels. They actually waste some screen in order to do that, but it's futuristic, it's cool, and everything like that. I love the last game board, and the reason I love the last game board is because it's got those progressions so that someone like an Apple who's not really in gaming yet, or someone like a Steam who wants to get more into family gaming, which I may be more into family gaming than other kinds of gaming, actually really works, and it really makes sense. I think we're super early as sweater investors, and I will tell you, where's my sweater? I don't have it hooked up to my screen right now, but I mean, I'll show you where I'm at with sweater investments right now. I am a pretty big believer. Yeah, I mean, I've got 24,533.29 cents in sweater. So I'm a big believer in sweater. I like all these things they're doing. I think all their logic is fantastic here, and I love it. I will tell you, one of the things we didn't talk about is the price is a little high because, you know, they have to scale up a lot of what's going on. So if I do look at order now, they do have a firm, so they're lower, but it's about $800 for the baseline kit. But remember, that is essentially a high-end iPad Pro with a lot of different sensors and stuff inside of it. Do I think with volume, this price can come down? Do I think outside of beta, this price can come down? 100%. I think with volume and outside of beta, this price can come down. I love it. I love last game board. I think we got in right at the right time. And I think it's an easy exit for someone like Apple or someone like Valve. I think Valve's the actual name of the company that makes the Steam Deck. I call them Steam, but Valve's the actual name. This is Richard from No Pants Profits taking a look at the newest company from Sweater Ventures. And reminding you, you know, when you're in venture capital, which is what sweater really is, and you're wearing no pants. There's only one thing you got left to lose. You know what that is? That's your shirt. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments below. But so far, I do like this first big investment of sweater for the year of 2023. Have a great one. Bye!